We are doing the Ho'oponopono chant today for a very specific purpose, and we will not be doing it the way we do it usually. That is, we just run the chant or we go through the chant. I'm going to do it differently today because there are people who approach me from YouTube, from Instagram, knowing that I come from a background of 40 years of astrology and occult sciences. So these people contact me and they come to me in grief. And what they have to say is that some psychic has said something terrible for their child. Some astrologer has predicted doom for their child. Somebody has said, there's a life risk involved. Somebody has said something else. And so, can you help us? The question is always that. And so today I want you to understand something related to the occult sciences. And so I'll do the chant, and after every chant I'm going to pause and I'm going to explain to you what that chant means, because I want you to understand some things. First of all, you've got to understand life is not for this body alone. It's not about this body alone. Life is about the development and the evolution of the soul. Just as you go to school and you don't remain sitting in one class for all those years, do you? You begin from a very early level and you progress to higher and higher levels. And when you progress to higher and higher levels, some things get left behind. You don't need them anymore. It is true that you needed to learn the alphabet. You needed to learn A, B, C, D. You needed to learn all that stuff so that you could put them together, form words, and then you could put those words together and form sentences. Then you could put those sentences together and form paragraphs. And it went on. And then you reach a level where, of course, you remember A, B, C, D, but you don't need to allow it to interfere in your study, isn't it? Think of it this way. Think of a beautiful pair of shoes. Those shoes belong to a 5-year-old. So, those shoes look very good on that 5-year-old. But within 6 months, that 5-year-old outgrows those shoes. So if you ask a question such as, is astrology something that we can trust, we can depend on, we can rely on? Can you rely on the words of psychics, people who function as medium, or any other of these occult sciences, any of these occult sciences? My answer to you would be, they all make sense. They all make sense. Please understand. Those shoes for the 5-year-old or the dress that a 5-year-old wears. Let's not talk of shoes because I don't want to compare astrology with a pair of footwear, but this is for you to understand some things. So if I say the dress for a 5-year-old, pretty frock or pretty dress, whatever it is, the question is, how long is that child going to wear that dress? Sooner or later, the child will outgrow that dress. Do you get it? Similarly, the soul comes to this earth to learn. And it has to outgrow some things. And one of the things it needs to outgrow is these occult sciences. Does it mean that these occult sciences are lies? No, not at all. Does it mean they don't make any sense at all? Oh no, they make a lot of sense. But the question is, didn't that dress make a lot of sense, that pretty dress? The question is, when will you realize that you have outgrown that dress and that you have to be on a different trip now? You have to outgrow these astrological fears, things that psychics tell you, sometimes all kinds of negative things. For that, you have to understand what your horoscope is, what your birth chart is, or what that psychic or medium is telling you. You have come to this earth with a subconscious mind. You've come with a conscious mind, you've come with a subconscious mind. And what happens is that this subconscious mind of yours is carrying imprints and impressions. All kinds of imprints and all kinds of impressions, both positive and negative, based on whatever happened up your family line. You have brought them with you. When you go to an astrologer and you show your chart, the blocks that appear in the chart, the negatives that appear in that chart, are those subconscious impressions. So you go to the astrologer or you go to a psychic, and the psychic is able to tell you something about your child, is able to tell you something dark about something else. Actually, those are fears in your own mind, which the person is able to. A psychic can read minds, so that person is able to say that. But please understand, those things are not God's truths. They are negativities in your own mind. They are not God's truths. God's truth is always wholesome, uplifting, and good. Anything else that anyone says about you, for you, about your child's chart, it is only a reflection of the negativity that you as the client are carrying in your mind. And the astrologer is only interpreting that. I have done 40 years of astrology, so you can trust what I'm saying. Even today I do astrology. Today too I do astrology. But then what you have to understand is that when if your chart says something negative and you go to an astrologer, the astrologer will naturally say that that darkness is there. This is there, that is there, this remedy, that remedy. But once you hear that your chart contains some darkness, and all human charts contain darkness, you will be consumed by fear. You will do all those remedies. Back of your mind, the fear will be there that, that my chart shows that. If that chart shows that, then that will probably happen. And by believing that thought, you will cause that thing to happen. So the lesson is that if you have to show your chart to someone and there is some darkness in it, first of all, you have to understand that you have to get out of this practice. See, there will always be people who will approach people like us to read their horoscopes. And no matter how much you try to convince them, don't waste your money. I'm not going to look at anybody's chart for free. I'll charge a fee. So they are willing to pay it. They're not listening. So now what will happen? If there is some darkness, I will have to say that this is there. And then I will prescribe some remedies. But those remedies may work for some time and stop working later. They may not be long term. They could be long term. For some people, it may not be long term. Why? Because the soul is now ready to learn something higher. Life is like a school. You've come here to learn some stuff and you cannot avoid it. So this is something you need to understand. If some astrologer, some psychic has said something to you about your chart, your child's chart, some condition, mental condition for your child, or some longevity issue for your child, or some disease for your child, or for yourself, or anything else. First of all, forgive yourself for going to that person. First, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for going to that person. Forgive yourself for not trusting that power which you call God. You have given that power to that astrologer or that psychic or to whoever. Only God's will should be allowed to prevail. In North India we say, Jaku rakhe saiya, mar sake na koi. What does that mean? Where God's will is there, no harm can come. The question is, God doesn't have two different wills for two different people. God's will is the same for everybody. God is not an ego person like us. He's not a person. We are egoistic. We love some people, we hate some people. We'll say nice things about some people. We'll say nasty things about some other people. We will want to help some people. We may even want to harm some people if we are there. Because we are human. God is not that. God's will is the same for everyone. The question is, God's will it work for you? It will work if you can give God that highest place. If you give that highest place to astrologers and psychics and medium and blah, 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 then that will work. Not because God is not powerful enough, but because you and I have been gifted with something extraordinary called free will. Free will means when God gave you free will, the idea was you can choose to either hold me, your God, as the highest, or you can choose to hold something else higher than me. It's your choice. I know who I am. God is the highest. Are you willing to give God that highest place? Or do you want to give God second place and give astrology and numerology and all the ologies, all I don't want to call them rubbish, but all those things? You have to learn to outgrow them. They are not rubbish. They are very meaningful for people who are there. But if you are scared because somebody has said something for your child, for God's sake, understand that's not the truth. You are believing in that and you have given that astrologer or psychic or medium a place higher than God. And you have to ask forgiveness for that. Forgive yourself for that. Then forgive yourself for first going to whoever you went to, then forgive yourself for giving that person and the whole subject of astrology and all these other occult sciences top priority, top place. Forgive yourself for that. And then forgive that astrologer or the psychic or the whoever who made that prediction to you. We are all earning our bread and butter. We have to earn our bread and butter. So if you come to us, we'll say some things. If it's showing in the chart, we'll say it. We'll give you remedies also. Sometimes those remedies will work. But if it is a situation of great terror or fear, it will not even work. Because your mind will be so consumed with that fear that even though you do those remedial things, it will not work. Because your fears will eat you up. And so you forgive the astrologer for having made that prediction, that psychic for having said that thing, or anybody else, so-called whatever. There are people who say things, and the word has power. If you believe it, there is a power inside you which says tathastu. So be it. If you don't believe it, that power says tathastu. That will not happen. You have to decide whether you want to give first place to God or first place to anything other than God. So this is what. So today's chant, I'm going to explain all these things to you. I'll do the chant, and after each chant, I'm going to explain something to you.